What's the biggest loophole you've ever exploited? Story 1. I used to bartend and would have to pay for parking, either on the street, which was a pain since I would have to re-up in the middle of my shift and often forgot, or in a paid parking lot. Found a parking garage that used a ticket machine on the way in, but had you pay a person on the way out. 90% of the time there would be no one working late night when I left work, so I scored free parking for a few years. Story 2. This loophole I learned from someone else on Reddit, but I'll share it for those who may not know. If you have a Planet Fitness plan and can't cancel it online, change your home gym to a random one in California. Then you can cancel it online. Story 3. I worked for an organization that ordered large amounts of groceries every week for their group activities from a major supermarket. There was a place to put in your loyalty card number, so I just used mine. Not only did I get heaps of points to use in shopping there, no one noticed it until about 5 years after I left. Story 4. Back in university when Windows 10 was new, they offered free licenses for students. They used a third-party website that didn't have actual limits and even had a drop-down menu to select the amount of licenses you want. I think I got 10 licenses that way, but if I wanted, I could have gotten hundreds. And they were legit Windows, 10 education license codes and not tied to any account. Story 5. Signed up for a free trial on Audible. When I went to cancel it, offered me a free credit to stay. Took the free credit, went to cancel again, and offered another free credit to stay. Got about 25 credits in one day before I chickened out and officially canceled. Story 6. When my brother and I lived together, he worked for a large chain restaurant. They had a policy where if someone called in an order for pickup and didn't pick it up by closing time, it was free game for the employees to take home. Occasionally, I would call in orders for pickup, never pick it up, and he'd just take it home for us. I'm not proud of it. We were both broke AF at the time, and most days it was the only food we could get. Edit. I'm no longer broke, so whenever I buy food from this place, I make sure to leave a heavy tip. I guess as a thank you to the chain for keeping me alive, but mostly to ease my guilt. Story 7. When I worked at Petco, I hooked people up for free treats. There was a $2 bag of sample treats with a coupon off for $2, supposed to be off your next large bag. One day I accidentally scanned it as the UPC and coupon were side by side. I started doing that more and gave away treats LOA. Story 8. When my son was in high school, he went to one that was connected to the community college. Starting in 10th grade, he could take college classes. So he chose classes whose credits would apply to both high school graduation and an associate degree. He also favored accelerated 7-week courses. He graduated high school with an associate degree and transferred 49 credits to his 4-year university. Story 9. Back in the days when Groupon was new and so there were real deals to be had, I purchased a 1 for a free sub from a big sandwich chain. The process for redemption was to order your sandwich in line, like normal, and at the point where you'd pay, you held up your phone and the employee at the register would click the redeem button on your phone, then comp the sandwich. I would pull up the Groupon, turn off cellular data, and then let the employee redeem the Groupon. As soon as they had done so and I walked out with my food, I would uninstall and reinstall the Groupon app. This prevented it from simply relaying the redemption the next time data was available. I did this nearly every day until the Groupon expired, usually for a couple weeks. I bought the Groupon every time it showed up, usually every other month. Probably over 100 free subs, such times the late noughts. Story 10. Around 2008, the U.S. Mint was trying to get more people to use the new dollar coins. You could buy some via their website and they would ship them to you for free. Those purchases would earn you points on your credit card. I bought $10,000 worth of coins, then took those coins to the bank so I could pay my $10,000 bill. I would then buy another $10,000 and repeat. A few 100,000 air miles later, and I'm still using those free miles in 2024. They eventually did close the loophole, but some people with huge lines of credit were able to get millions of free air miles. Story 11. It was a multi-step process, but damn it felt good. A local grocer had coupons for $1 off a 32 ounces Gatorade, branded by Gatorade, so they worked at multiple retailers. I clipped a bunch of them. Then I went to Walmart down the street and loaded my cart with as many Gatorades as coupons. At the register, the cashier was baffled I was buying so many Gatorades. I was in high school. She scanned all my Gatorades, and the total was something like $68. Then I had her apply a price match to Meijer's price, something like 0.88 cents each, bringing the total down a bit. But it doesn't stop there. Then I had her scan all of my coupons, deducting $1 for each Gatorade in my cart. The look on her face was hilarious, as my total went lower and lower each scan of a coupon, eventually passing 0 and showing a negative value. After ringing them all up, she got smug and said, "I bet you think you're pretty smart getting all of these for free." I looked at the total on the screen, then at her, and said, "Oh no, not free. I actually think I have some change coming back." Her jaw hit the floor as she called her manager and was told, indeed, that she had to also shell tilde $8 out of the register and hand it to me. What a feeling that was. Story 12. When I was studying, I used to take the train home almost every weekend. There used to be a perk with the first-class ticket that you could rebook the train if you missed it in a 24-hour window after it departed. I figured that the only way they would know if I missed the train was that if they scanned my ticket. So I just put on something that made me look like I belong, and then I pretended to be asleep when the conductor came to check the tickets. This worked almost always, so I had 2 tickets, one for each direction that I just rebooked into the next week. The first class had single seating, free coffee, biscuits, OJ, and water. It was almost empty usually, so very nice and quiet. The train otherwise was usually a lays booked near full, but people didn't want to pay the 50% more for the first class. I think I got woken up like 5 times during the 3 years I studied, so I paid about €320 for about 100 first-class trips on those trains. I guess they realized people were doing this and it was changed as an optional add-on to the ticket and had to be rebooked before departure. Story 13. I was leaving an abusive ex, and he had made me put our apartment only in my name. I was going to have to pay a bunch of money to break the lease, until I looked at it and realized Tamai had put the wrong year for the lease ending. They had done the year before, so legally my lease was over, and I had technically been month to month. The manager was super pissed when I pointed this out, and that I did not have to pay any lease break fee or additional rent past my submitted move-out date. They tried to hit me with a bunch of maintenance and cleaning fees after, but I had picture proof the place was in the exact condition I'd rented it in, so they informed me I would never be able to rent at any of their properties again, which was super dumb. I've always been a really great tenant anywhere I've rented, and I was not going to let them do anything legally that could fuck me over. But that whole lease thing was a huge relief and very helpful during the worst time of my life. My story 14. In college, there were these snack and soda machines with conveyor belts. The door that led to where you picked up the item was a plastic door flap that didn't lock. If you bought something and held the door shut, the machine would end up returning your money and the item would remain on the belt. You could then buy something else, or the same thing, and a second item would drop to the belt, next to the prior purchase. Again, holding the door shut would force the machine to return your money. You could do this as many times as you wanted, provided all the items fit on the belt. Story 15. I had found out and abused the fact that Bed Bath & Beyond's had a birthday reward loophole. I essentially had created multiple BBB accounts, set the birthday to next day, and had $5 birthday gift card rewards roll in on the next day. It also turned out you were able to stack them together into one account, so I cashed out about $600 worth of them to buy my mom expensive kitchen appliances. Ninja Creamy and Ninja Smart Foodie, great products, use them almost every day. Story 16. In college, I was dating this girl who worked at the bookstore, which had an ATM. She texted me informing me the ATM was giving out $20 bills instead of $5s. So if you withdrew $15, it'd give you $60. I and my friends and like 7 other people who happened to find out made quite a bit of money that day. I only made a few hundred because I was broke at the time and only had so much to withdraw. Some people were there for a long time, though. Everyone was super respectful about it. They'd withdraw, get their $60, and then move to the back of the line and do it again. Not one argument about hurrying up or anyone trying to double withdraw. Just broke college kids living in harmony, stealing from a bank. Was beautiful. No one got in trouble. We were bugging for a while. The machine was completely cleaned out of $20s by the time the ATM people came. Girl I was dating said she heard them say it was well over $10K. Story 17. Back in the day, the UK video game store game were running an online competition that had a prize every time, usually just a small coupon. But the top prize was an Xbox Kinect, which had just come out. There was a limit to 1 entry per email address per day, but you could enter up to 10 email addresses of friends as a referral with every entry. And if they won, you would also win. Of course, each referral email could also enter 10 more referrals. I had my own email hosting and had every possible email address at this domain, 1 at 2 at etc. Redirect to my main mailbox. I just entered a few thousand times with a little helper script to automatically fill the referral email addresses. Over about a week of doing it on and off, I won the top prize of a Kinect. They didn't let my referral email address also have a Kinect, so only 1 prize, not 2. This was back before CAPTCHAs were being widely used. Still by far my biggest exploit, based on them assuming you don't have access to unlimited different email addresses. Story 18. A telco in Australia had a $40 x 24-month contract for a phone that was worth like $1,100. However, when you canceled, they charged you 50% of the remaining contract price. So you could a new phone for less than half price by signing the contract, getting the phone, and paying the cancellation fee the next day. I got me and my partner new phones, but in the forums there was people who were doing this for like 20 or so phones and then reselling them and making a decent profit. Story 19. In college, when we wanted to go to concerts, we would buy one pit ticket and the rest were cheap GA tickets. I'd print out however many copies of the expensive one we needed. Everyone would use the cheap ones to get into the venue. And then we would all separately go in and give them the paper ticket because they just took them at the entrance to the pit area and didn't scan them. Story 20. This isn't exactly a loophole, it's more an unknown exploit. In the UK, if you work for a large business, they have to spend 0.5% of the salary bill for the apprenticeship levy. They need to spend this money within 3 years or it's forfeited to the government. One of the apprenticeships you can do is level 7. These are the level of a master's degrees. I got a £25K MBA for free, paid by my employer with 0 strings attached. Story 21, friend of mine. This was over a decade ago. It wouldn't work nowadays, but it did then, and it was genius. He was starting a small business. Him and his partner went to 5 banks in the same day. First bank ran his credit, looks good, they get a loan. Next bank runs his credit, doesn't see the previous bank's loan because it was too soon to see the update, looks good as far as they know, LOL, they get that loan. They did 3 more times that day, 50K each time, total 250K. Nice little chunk of change for a startup. It wouldn't work now because the credit report would probably be updated within 3 seconds. But damn, he's a clever motherfucker for thinking of that. Story 22. I worked in a gas station attached to a grocery chain. For every liter of fuel, you would get a cash coupon to the grocery store. I learned they didn't properly track the coupons themselves, which is wild. So I would ring in like $150 gas purchases coupon would generate, and I would refund the purchase back. The books would be balanced at the end of the day. As a broke-ass student, this kept me fed pretty well for months. Story 23. I used to work at Staples many years ago, and every item that we sell has a status. For example, A status stands for active, C status stands for clearance, and F status stands for final. For whatever reason, when an item goes to F status, the price drops dramatically. I'm talking a desk that was $250 would ring up for $8.50. Also, because it was no longer an active item, that meant it was no longer on display on the sales floor, so anything that would not sell would just sit in the back unnoticed. I used to run a report in our system constantly, and it would list everything that our location had in stock under F status. There was a time when like 1/3 of my furniture at home was F status items, and I paid probably $50 total for it all. Got my first DSLR with lens for $250. Regular price was over $1,000. It was a great time to be alive. Story 24. I would buy a train ticket via an app. My trip was London to Manchester, and I'd apply the railcard discount. When buying via the app, this cost me £70. When it comes to travel day, I'd say to the front desk that I had accidentally applied the discount when I didn't have a rail card. My mistake, so can I pay the difference of whatever is discounted? OG price is £100, rail card price is £70, so I paid an extra £30 at the desk. I was then provided a paper ticket to show the rail staff on the train, along with the original ticket on my phone, which I would then refund to receive the £70 back, meaning in the end I only spent £30 on a £100 trip. I did this a total of 3 times, tee-hee. Story 25. When lava cakes first rolled out on the Domino's app, rather than selling them only in 2 packs as they do now, there was a drop-down pick list where you could select the specific number of cakes you wanted. For whatever reason, if you selected 1 cake only, it was added to your cart with no price. $0. You could then go into the cart and change the quantity of that $0 lava cake to whatever number you wanted. I was worried at first that I'd get found out, so I would only order 1. Then I got bold and ordered 2, and they came just as they do now, 2 in a pack. No charge. I decided to push it one time and ordered 8 lava cakes with just 2 medium pizzas. Total bill was $16. Thought for sure someone at the store would realize something was wrong sending out 2 pizzas and 8 cakes for $16. Nope, minimum wage employees don't give a fuck. They just see the order and fill it. After that, I was like the Don of crunch cakes. You want a crunch cake? You got one. I must have gotten hundreds of those things over the course of 3-4 months. Eventually, I knew it would come to an end. I was going to write to Domino's in hopes they'd give me a gift card or something for exposing the glitch, but my GF at the time was like, dude, don't blow your cover, they'll just fix it and not give you anything, so I didn't. Less than a month later, they patched the problem, and I still regret not being the whistleblower and maybe getting some free pizza. As a totally random button on this story, years later, I was helping my company develop their website, and I flew to Detroit to work directly with the developer. At lunch on the first day we were talking shop, and the dev told me one of their claims to fame was developing the Domino's pizza tracker. I was like, wait, did you just do the tracker or the whole site? Turns out they did the whole site, the app and tracker. I mentioned my lava cake scheme, and the dev almost fell out of his chair. He was like, I totally remember that issue and patching it. He was floored. I had the inside scoop on that site glitch he assumed nobody knew about. Story 26. Not too exciting, but the Marco's Pizza in our area had a free cheesy bread coupon when I was in high school. You got a survey on the receipt, and if you filled it out, you got a free cheesy bread, and you didn't have to buy anything else. We saw that they still put the receipt with the survey with the free cheesy bread. My ex and I abused that at least once a week until they got rid of it, lol. Story 27. Got an email promo code for a pre-made meal delivery service where 6 meals were only $7.99 delivered. The way the email was set up was that the link you clicked could be reused over and over. My family, friends, and I used that emailed link for probably 9 months, getting meal packages delivered every week and freezing extras. My grocery bill had never been so low. Story 28. I had the Amazon Prime student discount for about 12 years. Back then, Amazon required you to upload a copy of your student ID as proof of eligibility. 5 of those years were undergrad and 2 were grad, so I used the student IDs that were issued each year. Well, after finishing grad school, I got an alumni ID to access some school resources. I noticed that the design of the alumni ID and the student ID were identical, except alumni was printed in the spot where 3 date range normally is, but took up significantly less room and left a lot of white space around it. So I scanned both IDs and used Photoshop to paint over the word alumni with the same color background, and then copied and pasted the numbers from my student ID one by one to show the current calendar year. I did this every year my Prime membership was up for renewal, and each time I uploaded the same ID with the new date, it got accepted. This went on until one year I got an email from Amazon that I would no longer be eligible for the student discount. Saved myself well over $500 doing this. Story 29. Back in the 2000s, I had a prepaid Telstra SIM card. When I would run out of credit and try to call someone, it would come up with an automated message that said something along the line of, "Welcome to Telstra. You have insufficient credit to make this call." So if you called someone and then waited for this message and pressed the star or hash key repeatedly for around 5 minutes, the call would suddenly connect to ring the person. It was great. Unlimited free calls. Only downside was that it was super annoying if people didn't pick up when the call eventually went through, and you'd have to start over again. Story 30. This isn't the biggest, but it's what I enjoyed very much. When I was in high school, the way study hall's attendance worked was that the teacher overseeing the class had a deck of index cards, one for each student. They would call out the students' names and separate the card from the stack for any student who was absent. The 2 stacks would go to the office where the secretary would record the absences and then put the stack back together to be used in future classes. At number of times, I was trusted with the task of bringing the cards down to the office. This was competitive because it meant getting to leave study hall for a short period. But when I got to do it, I simply removed my card from the stack and threw it away. Story 31. I went to university on an academic scholarship. Parking on campus was always difficult, with most students forced to park at the stadium and walk a decent distance. If you parked somewhere you weren't supposed to, you'd get a fine. Unpaid fines were rolled into next semester's tuition, so that you couldn't register for class until you settled up. Once I realized that my scholarship wiped the tuition to 0, I spent the next few years parking wherever the hell I wanted. Faculty spaces were the easiest, but 30-minute library spots, dorm residence, the grass, literally wherever I found that was close to where I wanted to be. I literally used the parking violation tickets as wallpaper in my bedroom, like badges of honor, regularly building up $100s, even $1,000s in fines. And every new semester it was wiped clean, and I started at 0. Bonus loophole story. I waited tables while in college. The restaurant I worked at pushed their gift cards pretty hard and offered a free $20 card for every $100 spent on them. I had my roommate buy them constantly, and I would then use them every time a customer paid cash. This was a while ago, when people used a lot more cash than they do now. It was an easy way to pocket a couple $100 extra every week. Story 32. Back over 1,000 years ago, nobody had smartphones. To get your parents to pick you up from the mall or wherever, you used a payphone to place a collect call. After the collect call voice said, "State your name at the tone," you didn't say your name, but rather, "Mom, please pick us up at the mall." Like you were the guy doing voiceovers for the Micro Machines commercials because they only gave you like 2 seconds to record your name. When the voice came back and said your collect call was declined, you knew Mom got the message and was bringing the station wagon for you and your crew.